You've been a black man longer than me, and you've seen the diversity. A lot of people think that we all think alike, and one thing applies to everybody here. One way of thinking. Uh, what can you pull from tonight's discussions that can help us as we go through Black History Month or as we approach Black History Month? I mean, can you kind of tie that together here for me?
Thank you, Mr. Hackley. First of all, I would like to say that it has been very interesting listening to the various people. And I am reminded about the first speaker, and he was talking about his spirituality. And I'm reminded of my spirituality. And I remember our Savior going into one of the temples, and he began to teach. And they said that he taught like none other could teach. And with that, I was just thinking here today, that's how it is. Except when he teaches, it takes all of us to learn a bit from one another. And I think that I have learned a lot more tonight by listening to our various speakers and so forth. And I saw something camaraderie here. One of the things I talked about or I heard was about education. Education will open the doors and will educate and enlighten people to a better understanding. I also agree that many times minorities receive money from outside groups, not knowing that those groups or that money is going to dictate that they're obligated to support their cause. And so I think that once that minorities are recognizing the fact that they must empower themselves, they will be better off and they will get more support and more things accomplished if they empower themselves. I also agree when I hear about the language. Language is a culture in itself. And if we say black, we should mean black. And when we say white, we should mean white. One of the things I recall recently, I was on the civil rights tour to Meridian, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Philadelphia, Mississippi. And I was down at the bombing where the 3 little girls was killed. And I was there and I watched them come out of the service, and there were 2 Caucasian men. And I said, I'm going to talk with them to see why they're here supporting and learning about civil rights. And I learned that these 2 men were not Americans, but they were from Holland. And it confused them about the civil rights issue of today. And they could not understand the black and white issue. And they come to conclude that it's only in America that we have the black and white issues that's so prevalent. But when we go back historically and see that, we can see back with the Articles of Confederation to the Convention of the Constitution, the black and white issue was prevalent and it was never settled. And so it had prolonged on today. It can change. And I agree with one of the speakers, or 2 of them really came to the same conclusion, that it is a prejudice thing when we have a Black History Month, because it means that what about the other history? And I do understand that if we didn't have it, history would be gone unnoticed, or so forth. And it empowers people. It gives them self-pride, self-esteem to understand that their history is a great history. They built the pyramids, so forth, medicine, math, architecture is things that what we think are very difficult, but things that we have achieved, and we are a great nation. Many say that we were overcome or came in the dark continent because we were a great people, not because we were a weak people. Well, that has some merits both ways. But I was so empowered about hearing all different possibilities. And so I'm aware that it takes all of us. I remember the civil rights issue when Martin Luther King was talking about nonviolence, and many of the people who had never heard of nonviolence was laughing at him, saying, that's ridiculous, and so forth. But nonviolence was successful because it was also true that Malcolm X and the Panthers was talking about power. It was also true because people start rioting, and so the powers to be said we have to deal with someone, and nonviolence was the best way to do this. So they supported King's movement instead of the other one, but it was always that rock that was thrown that gets somebody's attention. So I'm happy that Black History Month comes about. I wish it was part of the schools, and I see more and more as we get older and so forth, it's coming into our college campuses and sneaking into the curriculum of the high schools and so forth, because it's true. Yes, the victors, the ones who win the war, they write history. But if they're writing history wrong, it tells the people that they'll be lacking truth. And when they lack truth, they lack self-esteem, and they don't know who they are. And we are a great people.
What made you think that you can get into the political structure and start running for office and be successful? Because whatever made you feel that way, why didn't that same spirit, why isn't it embodied in other people here across the community in the same magnitude as it was in you?
First of all, I must say that there has not been a new Rick Stevenson that arrived on the scene. My thoughts and my philosophy has always been the same. When I was a student, I remember Mr. Robinson talking about his elementary education. I was educated at McCulloch Public School, and it was a predominantly white school. It no longer exists. I went to junior high to a predominantly black school, Harmer. It no longer exists. I went to a public high school, Central High School, where I feel that I had got a superb education. It no longer exists, and so forth. But as I was going, I had the same philosophy and so forth. I have been opposed to racism. I'm a 68-year-old native of this community, and I've seen over the 50 years, 68 years, how far we have come. And as I look and I see now that my son, who was a successful lawyer in Indianapolis and so forth, that's valuable. And his son is a graduate of Ball State and is in grad school in San Francisco, and the middle boy is a sophomore down in Bloomington. And the youngest son, who was born on my birthday some 15 years ago, he has been #1 in one of the greatest school systems in the state, Hamilton Southeast. He's been #1 in his class for 5 years, and I think one of the reasons is because his mother is a school teacher, his dad is an attorney, and catch this, he doesn't have the baggage of his grandfather, the prejudice history. And what's behind me? It's behind me. I can't change it to make it better or worse, but it did happen. Some of those prejudice things in Fort Wayne have come a long, long way. But I can't make it better. But what's in front of me, so forth, I can choose to strive forward. And I teach my grandkids the history of what has happened, but most importantly, what's in front of them. Do not let what's behind you make or deter where you need to go today. And so that's what I look and I said, I don't want to do or be part of anything that caused me to stumble. And this kid of mine that I was talking about, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that prejudice background that his grandfather has, so forth, because across the street is a neurosurgeon, and his daughter is my grandson's best friend. And my grandson doesn't realize that his best friend is a girl, let alone she's white, because of not having the background of his prejudice background of his grandfather. He can move on to great things. And is prejudice yet here today? Yes. Yes, it is. But it cannot be a struggling thing or strangling thing. It must be something that we realize that's in the past. And I look back at our 50 years in this community of where we have come. So where we have come a mighty, mighty long way. And yes, I would like to tell people how it was back then, but not to destroy their efforts to move forward, but just to educate them to know that they're standing on great men's shoulders.